Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.83, a Millefiori pendant. I recently inherited a big box full of flameworking supplies and color, and in that box was several jars full of murrini. This is Effetre murrini, and Effetre is located on the island of Murano. It's amazing that we can now get these and use them in our own glass and be inspired once again by Italian glass. And make today is just a very simple pendant with a collage of these murrinis on them. Plus, not everybody makes their own murrinis, so this is a perfect amount. I mean, look at how much you get, just like for a half a pound of murrinis. That's a lot. You'll never go through all this. It's perfect to practice with, and you can also use it for special designs in your own work to make it more unique to yourself. Anyway, let's get right into this. I hope you all enjoy this one and are inspired. And as always, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. So the murrini comes in different sizes. This here is the large size, and I think I lied. I think this is more like a pound of murrini. Anyway, I want to use a smaller size, and I have opaque and transparent. And I love the mix that the transparent has, and I like the depth that it gives. So that's what this is. And I am just going to pick out as many different ones as I can find and lay them all out, and definitely want some extra ones too out there. So we have a nice array of murrini to pick up, and it's just on a graphite pad. If you're using the large murrinis, you definitely need a hot plate. But for the small murrinis, I can just heat them up right in the flame and they work perfectly. So I'm going to start out, not with the pendant, but with some cane. I want to have a nice border on this pendant of filigree cane. So I'm going to start out by just getting a really good amount of clear hot and put it on the end of my mandrel. Now the mandrel that I use is a little thicker than the 3/32 of an inch that most people are used to. This is like more of an 1/8 inch mandrel. It's a nice thick size. And so I have a variety of mandrel sizes, which is helpful. So on top of my base of clear, I'm going to add 4 white stripes. And this cane is the pre-made cane, and it's nice to use because it's a consistent thickness all the way through. And it's the perfect size for filigree cane. And I'm going to add my 4. You can add more or less depending on how you're feeling that day. But I want to make sure that the ends are secured to the mandrel. That'll make sure that everything pulls out real nice on that end. And on the other end, I'm going to heat it up and do my little pull out here with my tungsten tweezers. That's what those are. These are really handy. If you have a chance to pick some of these up, I highly recommend the tungsten tweezers. And so now I'm going to heat that up after I pulled that point. And I didn't feel comfortable going into the mold. So what I want to do is just make it a little longer and smooth everything out, because I need to encase it just once. So I'm going to use a nice 5 to 7 millimeter rod, heat up the tip, get a nice ball of glass hot, and then gently swipe over your pattern. But you just want to make sure that you're swiping all of this on top of a cool core. Because as you swipe the clear, it's also heating up the glass, so you're insulating it as you go. All right, now that we've done that, I just want to smooth out that layer of clear and heat everything up. And I am going to pull that point one more time just to make sure that the clear is over that white, and it's a nice tip again to punty up on. So now I'm going to punty that up, and on this side I'm just going to do kind of like a lazy thing here. I'm just going to cinch that end down and then heat everything up and start to gently twist, you'll start to feel that glass, get kind of soupy underneath. And of course, that white usually turns clear, and that's the sign that, things are hot all the way through. So I'm going to start twisting as I pull, but I don't want to pull too fast. I'm more concerned about the twist, and then when the glass starts to kind of stiffen up a little bit, that's when I'll start really pulling and pulling quickly. And this nice 4 stripe white makes just a really nice filigree cane for the border. All right, let's go ahead and start on our pendant. So I'm going to start out the same way with clear, and I'm going to build up the size of the pendant right off the bat. I'm just going to, everything is going to start right from this clear pad that we're going to make. So I'm going to heat this up. And depending on the thickness of your clear, you can get it to, build up quicker, than maybe a thin rod. Sometimes working with a thin rod of clear, it can seem to get out of control on me a little faster than I want it to. So I'll step up to a larger rod of clear. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like I get a little bit more control that way. But at this point, I'm kind of running on low. So I am using whatever rods I have available. And crossing my fingers that they're not full of seedy glass, like the last piece. So after I have the amount that I want, and this is like maybe a 1/2 inch wide and maybe 1 inch long, I'm going to hold it down and kind of get a teardrop shape and completely flatten it. And this is the beginning of the pendant. All right, so let's get our murrinis out close to where I need them. I try to get everything real close together so I'm not reaching far. So I'm going to flatten everything, and now I'm going to pick up a murrini, and I should just gently hold it in the flame, but I don't know. I was feeling weird that day, so I was shaking, and so you're going to heat up the clear, and then place the murrini on it and flatten it out. And then what you're going to do at that point is heat the back side while you pick up the next murrini. And then you'll heat up a spot on the on the clear glass, so the murrini will stick to it. And I'm just going to continue to do this. So I make sure I heat up a spot, and the murrinis next to it, they might start to round out a little bit, and that's okay. You just want to make sure that every time you add your murrini, you immediately just press it down. Heat it and then press it. While you're picking up the next murrini, you're pressing it down on both sides, and that will further, kind of push the murrini into the clear, and it will also flatten out the other murrinis. The thing is here is that you just don't want to get it too hot. You want to work with a smaller flame, and you want to heat as close as you can to the other, murrini without completely melting it into the flame. So there's a lot of heat control happening here. But when it comes to the murrini end, you are just gently warming it up in your flame. And this is why I recommend the tungsten tweezers, because the tungsten is able to withstand the kind of heat from our flame without getting red hot and sticking to the murrini. So it's a great tool to have, especially when you are, working with hot things like this, like using it as an extension of your fingers. If you have a regular pair of tweezers, you can still do this, but you want to be careful not to overheat the murrini or the tweezer tips to where they start sticking to the glass. And if that does happen, you can always quench your tweezers in water. But if you are really interested in murrini work and murrini placement. And, you know, maybe you just decide you want to pick out all the yellow murrini, Millefiori, and you just want to use all that. Some of them aren't Millefiori, they're just murrini. Some of them are square, some of them are bullseye, so you can pick out all the different ones that you want to and maybe make a scene out of them, or maybe you just want to use them like a collage, like I'm using it here. Maybe you want to do it in a pattern though. So there's a lot that you can do with the Effetre murrini, and I just am glad to have some to play around with and to practice with, because if you are ever interested in making your own murrini, then you will know better how to place them when you start making your own. So this is a great kind of platform to dive off of into the world of murrini. And what better place to start than on the island of Murano, where the glass was made. I just think that's so cool, because to me it's like working with the history of Venetian glass. All right, here I'm done, and what I'm doing is I'm very gently heating up the tops of the murrini and flattening it down. And I'm going to do this periodically over and over again, not periodically, but repetitively, so they get flatter and flatter and flatter. You don't want to heat it all up at once and then flatten it all down at once. It should be a gradual, gentle flattening. And now here, I'm just making sure that the clear side is warm, because I want to cool the murrini side down so we can completely coat that side in clear. And that's what's important here, is that you have cooled down the murrini side. So once you're done adding all your murrinis and flattening them down gently, all your heat is on the back side. And then once it cools, you're good to start, heating and swiping a nice coating of glass right over the top. And here I'm just going to kind of gently use my butter knife to shape things up and push a little bit of the clear around where I need to. And so I'm going to also flatten this down, and I want to make sure that my sides are also, like, everything needs to be encased here. But the first thing I'll do is flatten it, and I'm looking at it and I see some low-lying areas. And instead of heating and flattening it out until it's all like really squished, I'm going to fill in those gaps, because I don't want to press it down any more than this. I just don't want it to be really thin and flattening out the three-dimensionality of the murrini, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to add a little extra clear, add a little bit on my sides, and a little on the tip. I just want to make sure that everything is completely encased. And then once that is done, I'm just going to use my paddle here just to kind of flatten things out. I'm not looking to round anything out. I want to keep the flattened shape here, but I do want to make sure that everything is nice and melted in, especially around the edges. And then when you're ready, you can flatten that out one more time. And I was really happy that it flattened out into a nice looking pendant again. So now all I have to do is heat everything up, maybe do a little bit of adjustments. But once you're at this point, you're ready to give it a really nice fire polish on both sides. So I fire polish one side and then let that cool down. And then I'll fire polish the other side. If you fire polish one side and then immediately hit the other side with the heat, the whole pendant, it just gets too wiggly. It's just too much for me to handle. So make sure you cool down one side and then the other side. Okay. Now that everything's all flat and ready to go, I have preheated my edge, and now I'm going to just add my cane on one side, and I'm only going to do half of this to start out with. So I'm just going to walk it over and try to do my best to keep it on center. That's really hard for me to do. So anyway, it's a do your best to do that. And then I'm just going to form that a little bit and make sure it is melted in and it will not break off while I add the other side. That's important. So make sure it's nice and melted. And now we can do the other side. I'm just going to heat the tip and very gently work that heat and walk the cane and just feed it right onto the edge and pull away when you get to the bottom. I was so happy to see this, you guys, because I don't know if you remember the last time I tried this. I tried to do the whole thing in one round. It was ridiculous. So it's better to do it on one side and then the other side. And the nice thing is that where the punty is where my bale's going to go. So I don't have to really worry about that spot. All right, before we get there, I want to just make sure that that border is completely secure. And I am looking at it and going, wow, this, golly, could this, I could have been sitting on an Italian sidewalk flameworking this. And I would have felt great about it. Like, this is so Italian. I love it. All right, so just a little bit of heating here and there. And now here comes the punty. I'm going to heat up my metal punty just to start softening it while I get my glass punty ready. So I'm going to roll it out into my rounded pencil point. And I'm not heating the tip of the glass. I'm just making sure that the connection is very stiff. It's better to have a stiff connection than a soft connection, if anything. And that will give me the opportunity to then heat up the other side and gently pull that metal out of the glass. And now, this time I made sure I made the bale ahead of time. Now we're going to grab the bale that I pre-made and had sitting in my oven that runs at about 1,000 degrees, so it's a nice garage as well as an annealer. And then I will add the bale right to the top, and I try to make sure that both sides are, the bale is more hot than the pendant. And then once they're attached, I can take my punty off and very gently flatten everything out and immediately put it away before anything can happen to it. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed these last demonstrations. I had a lot of fun making them. And on that note, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon.